Amanda Blake was fined $1,500 by her HOA for using a state-approved rainwater system she had helped design. Behind it stood Trevor Madsen, a petty HOA vice president pushing illegal fines to boost his brother's irrigation business. But Amanda wasn't just a homeowner. She was the state water director, with the full law on her side. Just listen to how this showdown unfolded, and why justice, in the end, left no doubt who truly won, right? It was supposed to be an ordinary Saturday morning. Amanda Blake had just finished her coffee and stepped out to collect her mail, expecting nothing more exciting than a couple of catalogs and utility bills. Instead, her eyes caught a glaring splash of yellow, an envelope taped directly to her mailbox post, flapping lightly in the breeze. She frowned. The envelope wasn't from the post office. Across the front, in blocky, oversized letters, was stamped, "Notice of HOA fine. Immediate action required." Amanda sighed and pulled it free. She wasn't new to the bureaucracy of Pinecrest Oaks, a charming HOA-governed community that prized manicured lawns and pastel shutters above all else. The residents were mostly pleasant, but many treated the HOA's ever-changing rules like gospel. And few truly understood them. Amanda did. She had spent the better part of 2 decades crafting state-level water management policies. In fact, she had just been appointed State Director of Water Resources, a fact the HOA board should have known, but clearly didn't. Inside the envelope was a formal citation. Fine, $1,500. Violation, unauthorized collection and use of rainwater via illegal containment structures. Compliance deadline, 10 days. Failure to comply may result in additional fines or legal action. Amanda's brow furrowed. Her so-called illegal containment structures? The rainwater harvesting system discreetly installed behind a privacy trellis on the side of her home, a system approved, state-certified, and funded in part by a state conservation grant she herself had authored. At first, she thought it had to be a mistake. Perhaps the compliance officer hadn't known what they were looking at. But then, her eyes dropped to the signature at the bottom. Trevor Madsen, HOA Vice President, Environmental Compliance Committee Chair. Her stomach tightened. Trevor. She knew the name well. A retired insurance salesman with a loud voice at every HOA meeting, Trevor had recently started calling himself an environmental enforcer, despite lacking any actual training or authority in the subject. Amanda had heard the rumors. He was pressuring neighbors to remove their rain barrels, claiming they attracted pests and lowered property values. Most residents didn't have the time or legal knowledge to push back. Before Amanda could finish processing the absurdity of the fine, a knock rattled her front door. She opened it to find Trevor himself standing there, clipboard in hand, self-satisfied smirk plastered across his face. "Well, good morning, Amanda," he said, voice dripping with false politeness. "I trust you received our notice?" Amanda kept her expression neutral. "I did." Trevor leaned slightly forward. "You should know. We don't take this lightly. Those barrels of yours set a terrible example for the neighborhood. This isn't some backwoods farm." His lip curled. "We expect residents to maintain proper aesthetic standards." Amanda blinked. Was he serious? The rain barrels were sleek, state-issued, and hidden behind professional landscaping. More importantly, they were protected under state law. But Trevor was already pivoting, as if the matter was settled. "I suggest you remove them promptly," he added. "We wouldn't want this to escalate." As his footsteps retreated down her walkway, Amanda stood motionless in the doorway, shock giving way to a cold, creeping certainty. This wasn't about aesthetics. It wasn't about community standards. It was about petty power, and the wrong man had picked the wrong target. Amanda Blake wasn't the type to let things slide, especially not when she sensed something rotten beneath the surface. After Trevor's smug visit, she spent her Sunday combing through Pinecrest Oaks HOA's online records. The bylaw about visible rainwater storage units hadn't existed a month ago. But there it was, newly passed, vague in wording, and tacked onto the Community Aesthetic Standards section. The meeting minutes told the story. Trevor Madsen had pushed the measure through, insisting that rain barrels were a public health risk, breeding grounds for mosquitoes, and unsightly nuisances that reduced neighborhood property values. Amanda's lips pressed into a thin line. Public health risk? Her state-certified system had sealed tanks with overflow protections and integrated filters, exactly what the state encouraged homeowners to use. The more Amanda read, the clearer the picture became. She soon discovered why Trevor was so determined. A quick search of county business records revealed that his brother, Richard Madsen, owned EcoStream Irrigation and Lawn Services, a company that had been undercut in recent years as more Pinecrest Oaks residents adopted state-sponsored rainwater harvesting systems. The very systems Amanda had helped promote across the state. In other words, Trevor wasn't protecting the community. He was protecting family profits, and as if to confirm it, the harassment escalated. The following week, Amanda opened her mailbox to find not one but two more fines, each now $500 higher than the last. One came with an additional warning. Failure to cease and desist may result in the initiation of a property lien. A lien over rainwater barrels, fully legal, fully compliant, and installed with state approval. Amanda wasn't the only target either. Neighbors began murmuring during evening walks and over fence lines. "He fined us too," whispered Karen Lewis, a widowed retiree. "We just took the barrels down. We can't afford a lien." Another neighbor shared that an elderly couple on Oak Tree Lane had panicked and dismantled their entire system after receiving a similar threat. Amanda's initial shock hardened into something deeper, something colder: hatred. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a difference of opinion over landscaping. It was deliberate. It was manipulative. And it was profitable for Trevor and his brother. Yet, when Amanda filed a formal written objection to the HOA board, citing both state law and conservation guidelines, the reply came back curt and unapologetic. The new bylaw stands. Compliance is mandatory. Amanda stared at the letter for a long moment. So that's how they wanted to play this. The line had been crossed. The game had changed. Now it wasn't just about defending her barrels. It was about stopping a bully before he ruined anyone else. Amanda wasn't just angry anymore. She was furious. But unlike most of Trevor's unfortunate victims, she wasn't afraid. She was prepared, and she had the exact expertise and authority to strike back where it mattered most. For a few days, Amanda did what she did best: research, assemble, document. She pored through every line of the newly passed HOA bylaw, every citation Trevor had issued, every public statement he had made about water storage. Then she went wider, reviewing the state's own water statutes, the constitutional conservation provisions, and even federal EPA guidelines on stormwater management and private water collection. The picture was crystal clear. Trevor's bylaw wasn't just misguided, it was illegal. To be precise, it violated the State Home Water Conservation Act, which explicitly protected residential rainwater collection, the state constitution's Environmental Rights Amendment, which guaranteed citizens the right to use sustainable water practices, several federal guidelines encouraging private water harvesting as part of stormwater mitigation efforts. Amanda's next call was to the State Attorney General's office, where, thanks to her position, she had direct access to the Environmental Crimes Division. Her second call was to the State Environmental Protection Division's legal team. Within 2 days, both departments confirmed what Amanda already knew. The HOA had no legal standing to enforce its new bylaw, and its pattern of fines could easily trigger civil penalties, if not criminal charges, depending on the full extent of the violations. But Amanda wasn't done. Digging further, she uncovered something even more damning. Trevor's brother Richard, through EcoStream Irrigation, had been quietly offering discounted compliant irrigation systems to homeowners who had been fined for their rain barrels. The offers had been sent via private letters. Amanda obtained one from a neighbor. It was clear. Trevor wasn't enforcing community standards. He was running a shakedown, a violation of not only HOA ethics, but also state anti-corruption statutes. Now, the time had come to act. With deliberate care, Amanda assembled a formal legal package: a comprehensive cease and desist letter, citations of every violated law, and notices of pending actions should the HOA fail to immediately comply. Then, with a polite email, she invited Trevor and the full HOA board to a courtesy meeting at her home to clarify certain legal concerns. The tone of her message was professional and cordial, but Amanda knew exactly how Trevor would read it. And sure enough, they came, smug, confident, unaware that their game was over. Trevor walked in first, clipboard under his arm, flanked by 3 other board members. Amanda greeted them calmly and gestured to her dining table, where 2 neatly dressed attorneys from the Attorney General's office were already seated, their state water authority and environmental protection credentials placed plainly on the table. The board members visibly stiffened. Trevor's smile faltered, but he pushed forward. "I assume we can resolve this quickly," he said, trying to keep the room in his grasp. Amanda didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She slid a folder across the table. The cover bore the official State Water Authority seal. "This is an official cease and desist demand," Amanda said evenly. "Your bylaw is null and void under state and federal law. All issued fines must be rescinded in full. If you do not comply, the state of insert state name will pursue formal enforcement, including civil penalties against the HOA and its officers." Trevor's face paled almost instantly. His earlier cocky tone drained to something brittle, almost childlike. "This isn't necessary. Surely we can—" Amanda looked him straight in the eye. "That option ended the moment you tried to profit from your abuse of this community." Around the table, the board members exchanged nervous glances. They had come to assert control. Now they were watching it dissolve, legally, irrevocably, completely. Amanda said nothing more. She let the moment settle. The legal gears had begun to turn, and this time they were pointed straight at the ones who had set them in motion. By the end of the month, the outcome was no longer in doubt. The State Water Authority, in coordination with the Attorney General's office, issued a formal order invalidating Pinecrest Oaks' illegal bylaw in full. The state's letter was clear and forceful. The HOA had engaged in unlawful interference with a state-sponsored conservation program. Along with the order came a $25,000 civil fine levied directly against the association, not just for violating the law, but for the pattern of intimidation uncovered during Amanda's investigation. Word spread quickly. Local news outlets picked up the story, and what began as a quiet neighborhood dispute soon became headline material. One regional paper ran a front-page article, "HOA overreach backfires, illegal water ban, costs Pinecrest Oaks $25K." For Trevor Madsen, the fallout was swift. Embarrassed, the HOA board convened an emergency meeting. Under mounting pressure from residents and facing potential further legal action, the board held a special vote, and Trevor was formally removed from his position as vice president. Meanwhile, his brother's company, EcoStream Irrigation, came under separate scrutiny. The State Ethics Commission opened an official investigation into the company's role in the HOA's scheme, a process that could take months, but already left a visible dent in EcoStream's reputation. As for Amanda, she didn't seek attention, but it found her. Neighbors began stopping by her home with questions and congratulations. Inspired by her stand, dozens of residents began reinstalling their rainwater systems, some even upgrading to newer models now fully protected under state law. Seeing the opportunity to help, Amanda organized community workshops on legal rainwater harvesting, hosting them at the local community center. Attendance exceeded all expectations, and in a final twist of irony that no one missed, Trevor himself was spotted, red-faced, quietly attending one of the first workshops, notebook in hand. The man who had once bullied his neighbors into submission now sat in the back row, forced to learn the very rules he had tried to twist for personal gain. As for Amanda's own system, it remained fully in place, untouched, unchallenged. And now it bore one small but deliberate addition, a brass plaque mounted beside the barrels, state-certified water conservation installation, do not tamper. In Pinecrest Oaks, the lesson was clear. Justice had not only been restored, it had been permanently enshrined.